For my literature review, I decided to look at assistive technology, the obstacles and opportunities that come with assistive technology. First, by way of introduction, I am Tim Stapert. I'm a teacher at Grand Rapids Christian High. This beautiful building is where I call home 5 days a week. And actually, the building is now a little bit bigger than it used to be. We recently went under some major renovations, updated the classrooms, and so that it's a little bit bigger than it is in this picture. But this is my third year teaching. Before this, I used to work for Lincoln Financial Group as a retirement consultant, but realized I much preferred being in the classroom, and so I went back to school, got my teacher certification, and was lucky enough to find myself teaching in my old high school. I like to refer to myself in my current job as the business department. I am the only person in the business department. So I teach all of our business courses, marketing and accounting. I also teach economics, but I also teach our computer apps course. And because I teach that computer apps course, both teachers and students often refer to me as the quote-unquote tech teacher. So anyway, why did I choose the topic of assistive technology? Well, as the school's tech teacher, I am defiantly concerned about the proper usage of technology. When I think of assistive technology, one of the first things that pops in my head is the fact that we can all benefit from it, and one of the things we often all benefit from is things like spell check. Unfortunately, I see this mistake, this using the word defiantly instead of definitely, all the time in students' work. They use the spell check, but then they don't actually know how the word definitely is spelled, so they choose one that looks relatively close and they get it wrong. I see this on Facebook, I see this on other social media, but I even see it in academic papers. And so I started out this paper thinking, what are the negative side effects of assistive technologies? But as I started reading and researching this, I realized that I was asking the wrong question. By definition, assistive technologies are technologies that help students or help people overcome obstacles that would otherwise be too laborious or too taxing. And so there aren't really negative side effects, at least when it's utilized properly. And so what I really came to research was this question of what are the obstacles we need to overcome to more effectively utilize the technologies that are out there. So what did I learn? Well, when I started researching, I kind of started with the understanding that assistive technology, by and large, is a wonderful thing, that it really does help students' well-being, that it helps them improve their performance, and there's a large body of research that supports that. But there are some obstacles. The first obstacle that I came across was the obstacle of self-esteem. Some assistive technology devices carry with them some negative connotation. Students don't want to wear a hearing aid because it admits that they're different somehow. Students don't want to use the text-to-speech because then it indicates that they have struggle reading, and they don't want to admit that. So there's often negative images that come with assistive technology, and it's probably not surprising then that those who do use assistive technologies regularly, the research showed that they actually experience higher rates of depression. I think as teachers we need to be on the lookout for those problems and encourage our students to continue to use devices that will make them more successful, because ultimately that success will make them happier and will make them more productive. The second obstacle I classified as isolation. Some technologies, think of the wheelchair there, are bulky. They get in the way. They're not easy to move about. And as such, it discourages people from going out, from being a part of the community. We recently had a football player who was injured and had to get around in a wheelchair, and it was tough for him to get to class on time. And in fact, one day he was just stayed down in the commons area instead of coming to class because he was sick of wheeling himself around. So we need to organize our classrooms as best we can. We need to organize our physical facilities as best we can to encourage participation. But one other area that we've got to encourage participation then, and one good technology for encouraging participation amongst those who might otherwise struggle to physically get places, is through asynchronous communication, like our discussion boards. Discussion boards are a great way to include people who might not otherwise be able to participate, whether that be because of their physical limitations or because maybe they have cognitive difficulties that make it a little harder for them to gather their thoughts in a regular classroom discussion. So asynchronous communication can be a great way to include people, but it does work most effectively, the literature says, in smaller groups, in groups of 10 or less. And so we need to think about how we can organize our classes to encourage this type of communication, but also do it in an effective manner. So keeping group size small, and so that conversations don't wander and everybody stays engaged in the process. Third obstacle, technical difficulties. We had a staff meeting just the other day, and our Apple TV that was running the projector crashed. So here we are in the middle of a fairly serious meeting. The projection stops working and the meeting gets disrupted, and that can be an annoyance and nuisance. But for students using assistive technologies, it's not just a nuisance, it's not just a headache, it can be embarrassing and it can be discouraging, so they don't want to be involved anymore. And what most of the research says is that while more and more teachers are being trained and made aware of all the assistive technology that is available, they aren't necessarily trained to be proficient at it to the point where they can troubleshoot it, to the point where they can easily overcome any obstacles that the technical difficulties might provide. The fourth obstacle then is just simply usage. When we look at demographics of people, when we look at their income, their ethnicity, etc., all of those things correlate to the amount of assistive technology that people use and the type. People with low incomes typically don't use as much assistive technology. People with low incomes who do use it typically use more low-tech solutions instead of higher-tech solutions. Old people, they typically use more low-tech solutions. On top of that, if the technology is not terribly effective, if it's not very easy to operate, if it's not very durable, all of these things will discourage use of the technology that's available. And so we need to make sure to encourage people to continue to use them, and also make sure that we are suggesting and using the most effective technologies. So the conclusions. I think for all of us, we need to continue to build awareness of what technologies are available. We also need to become more proficient at using them so that we can help out. We need to continue to remove barriers in the classrooms and in our courses and the activities that we do, so that people can use those technologies. And I think most importantly, we need to develop a culture that embraces these wonderful technologies that are available, that doesn't stigmatize them, but encourages their use. So, with that, are there any questions?